Okay, so we are just after lunch, so maybe you were thinking you would be sipping your tea or coffee quietly on your chair. Instead, what I would like to ask you is to stand up for a moment, because I need you energized for this afternoon. So, as you see, we are going into the Olympics. We are going here, we have an athlete in high jump. So I'm not asking you to jump, but let's warm up a bit as if we were ready for Olympics. So, knees first, we do a bit of rotation. The other side, okay, shoulders. Other side. One big breath. We let it out. One more. Okay, please. So, does someone know who this guy is? Yes, Dick Fosbury. So this picture is from 1964. And the caption of this picture was Fosbury flops over bar. And in an accompanying article, a reporter actually added then that he seemed like a fish flopping in a boat. And even probably less kinder journalist had said that he was the laziest high jumper ever. So, as we said, Dick Fosbury actually became one of the most influential athletes in the area of track and field. He started to experiment a new technique of jumping at the age of 16 because he felt that the traditional methodology at the time wasn't working for him. He wasn't that coordinating with that, and his body morphology wouldn't fit that well. So he challenged himself to test and try out something different. And this is where then the Fosbury flop started to appear, and that he then perfectioned that and fine-tuned that. But at the time, not only the journalists weren't that nice to him and supporting him in that, even his own coach actually tried to tell him to rather try to focus on the traditional way of doing it and try to persuade him on that. His colleagues, the other competitors, they saw a risk in there. They didn't want to do the same yet. And so they started to try to look at rules. But the rules around that actually were just saying that you need to be on one foot at the moment of takeoff, and that you just need to have the entire body going over the bar. So they couldn't find much there, but they still tried to challenge that. And that, imagine at the time, the landing surface wasn't as soft and elevated as we see now with the big mattresses. So, because people were actually jumping and landing on their legs first. So you had to challenge also the environment and what the space was at the time. He did compress a couple of vertebrae on the way, but ultimately he was able then to challenge himself, his competitors, his coach, the journalist, and the entire discipline to really end up in 1968, Mexico City, Olympic Games, he won the gold medal. So what I want to share with you today is really how, by becoming challengers, which means challenging ourselves, our ways of working, our ways of engaging the consumers, our ways also of positioning ourselves in the industry and challenging the industry itself, we want really to become leaders in the market. So, who are we? Just to share a bit, Sanofi, large pharmaceutical company, more than 100,000 employees present in more than 100 countries with a deep footprint, both in terms of manufacturing and production, but also in terms then of our investment in R&D. We are present in different business units. What I want you to look at for today, it's the green one. It's the consumer healthcare. It's the business that deals with all the drugs that you can get over the counter without prescription. And the reason why we focus on this business of 5 billion net sales and about 10,000 people across 45 countries in the world. It's because with the arrival of our new CEO in 2019, there was a new strategy that was defined. And with the new strategy, it was decided that we would focus on the core assets of our pharma. Traditional pharma is quite different from the dynamics you can have with the consumer healthcare, which is much more closer to FMCG. So you speak to the consumer in a different way. You do not have the same regulated environment. And this is why, therefore, we wanted to do a carve-in of this division from the big pharma business to fully unleash the potential that this business unit actually had. And we started to create a full integrated business unit from R&D through manufacturing, commercialization, including all the support functions as well. However, we are not the only ones in the market doing that. It's actually quite a trend for large pharmaceutical companies. We had Aleon, that was recently created a couple of months ago from the IPO of GSK. And then we have as well Kenvue, that comes from the spin-off from Johnson & Johnson. So how can we make sure that we take our space and we can challenge the other competitors in this one? First of all, we need to make sure that and be aware that analysts and investors at the moment are looking at us, because now we are still within Sanofi. We do not know what is going to happen next. It's going to be a private equity fund. It's going to be a merger with another company. It's going to be an acquisition. It's going to be an IPO. We don't know. Our journey and what we are asking also our employees to do is to be ready and to own our standalone, which is exciting because we are building our own company in these months. But we know that people are looking at us. Analysts are looking at us. Investors are looking at us. And what they are looking at is not anymore the same elements they would look for a pharma company, but there are other dimensions that they need to look at, also from a financial perspective. And therefore, we need to adjust that. We need to adjust the story that we tell the external world. To be able to change the story you tell the external world, first you need to change the story you tell your people, but even more, you need to make sure that your own employees are able to tell that story outside. And so that's where all our cultural transformation really comes in. And our challenger mindset is coming in, because when you look at the market, you see that we are in between second to fourth within the competitors. That's not enough, because where we want to be is at least the undisputable number 2. We want to be seen as a real challenger and competitor. And a challenger for us is someone who is brave, is someone who is able to break through for the industry. And who do we challenge? That's quite clear. Our competitors, we have the names there. What do we challenge? We challenge the way we talk to our consumers, the way we serve our consumers. We challenge the way we engage with the environment as well, our sustainability policies, our ambition also in that space. We challenge also our impact to society. We challenge our own ways of working. We challenge the way we define our brands. And then, how do we challenge? And to define how do we challenge, this is where we have started then to run an internal diagnostic to see, and this came on top of the regular employee survey that we are doing. This was really specific to see, in terms of culture, what are our employees seeing as really our strengths, and what are our areas for improvement, having in mind the journey that we are going through and the ambition that we have as a company. So what came up in terms of strengths? First of all, it's empowerment. People felt that we had a culture of empowerment, that they could make decisions, that they could test out new things. And this is also linked to this entrepreneurial spirit and mindset that they felt there was. Collaboration was also coming very high, with generally a willingness to also break silos and create cross-functional opportunities if innovation, for example, would be at stake. On the other side, what we also saw is that we are complex. We are large, we are complex. That may come from legacy. We came together from a certain number of merger and acquisitions, so different processes, different stories. Not everyone has the same level of information. At the same time, that's not a justification. So where can we cut? Where can we simplify in our processes and systems? That dilutes accountability often. So how can we improve on that? Second point that was also identified as an opportunity is around feedback. We are doing quite well in terms of recognition feedback, which is great because, as Ellen told us yesterday, appreciation and feeling valued is the first need that all the employees have in the workplace. So that's great. But then it felt also like we were a bit avoiding difficult conversation, which often are the ones that also bring to some opportunities and to some of those breakthroughs that we are looking for. So having that in mind, what we decided to do, it was really to define our new, first of all, mission, because we felt that the one we had before wasn't strong enough. It was about bringing fuller, healthier life. And instead we say we are not just doing this. What we want to do is that we want to bring health in the hands of our consumers. And then we kept the vision that we already have. We want to be the best fast-moving consumer healthcare company in and for the world. Based on this, then, we go back to the question we had, how are we going to challenge? And how are we going to challenge is going to our challenger mindset. And here is where we define 4 behaviors. First one, it's about taking action. We drive results. It's all about excellence in execution, follow-up, follow-through. Then it's about stretch. We differentiate where it counts. We want to make sure that we continuously raise the bar in our industry, internally, and for ourselves. Feedback. This is about challenging each other to grow. We knew that we were quite good in recognition feedback, but we were kind of hiding ourselves when it was coming to developmental feedback. So we tried to reposition the concept of feedback in a positive way. When we are challenging each other, when we are providing, in some cases, even some tough feedback, it is to improve. It is for finding additional opportunities and not to miss out on some of them. And we are also very honest in, from one side, we back down in our strengths. On the other, we act honestly also on opportunities for improvement. And then we add something around valuing togetherness. This is because we know that the ride we have had is exciting, yet maybe bumpy at times. So we need to make sure that we are in this together, that we find moments where we have fun, where we laugh, where we support each other, and we have each other's back in the journey. We defined a very structured engagement and communication plan to support the creation and more than the creation is to bring to life those behaviors. And today I would like to share 3 specific initiative projects that we put together. The first one is to show how we have decided to integrate our cultural transformation through one of the HR processes that is probably the most common one, the performance management system. And we had the performance management system that was running, the new one, since a couple of years, with a bit standard goal setting, year-end reviews, and check-in, quarterly check-in in between. So what we thought is that how do we make sure that we leverage that also to add the new flavor, the new mindset. So we created a communication campaign, a different one. We changed the way we were communicating around our performance impact, which is our performance system, starting with the begin year. Sanofi is one of the sponsors of Olympics. This is why I started with Olympics, and you're seeing quite a lot of athletes here. And we have two among our colleagues are actually ex-Olympic athletes. So we are taking them for this year on this journey around performance management for going for gold. So we started with setting up objectives as an Olympian, really leveraging a lot of sport metaphors in which they were telling us their own experience. They were interviewing some colleagues as well about how they would relate to that in their own sport life as well. As you can see, you see the email recipient, so everyone received the email, whether they read it or not, this we don't know. Whether they read it and they act on it, also we don't really know. Then we know the Yammer impression. Yammer is our internal communication tool. Then we see the LinkedIn impression of our head of HR, of our chief people officer. And there you see it's already higher. And I suppose that more people within the company saw the information through the LinkedIn profile rather than through email or Yammer. But then what my colleagues actually told me, that the place where this was really buzzing and viral was WhatsApp. So sometimes we try to be very sophisticated. At the end, internally, what we found out, that when we have videos that we want to circulate with clear action, when the leaders are cascading that down to the group they have on WhatsApp, to the leadership team, that goes, it spreads around very quickly. And when it's short videos, span of attention is working better on your personal phone, and when you look at that very easily without having to download anything, than when you need to open multiple tools and access different apps. So I'm sharing because it's surprising, but as a colleague said also the other day, this company is run through WhatsApp. And so we are really leveraging it to the max. Check-in number 1 in April was all around individual development plans. So we created the motifs around the ball is in your court, getting again back to the concept that as an employee, I own my own career. And then now for the beginning of July, for the check-in number 2, the focus is going to be on feedback. And we have a tool called Manager 90, in which the manager are receiving feedback from their employees through a specific tool. That is going to give us additional insights also from a listening strategy perspective. The second one I would like to discuss, to share with you, it's really around also how we have integrated, how we have been leveraging our leadership development programs to spread the culture. When we started sharing the challenger mindset, we first engaged our top 150 leaders. That's around 1.5% of the population. They were really engaged. It resonated a lot with them, but we cannot go that very far with that number. So then what we decided to do next was really to engage their direct reports, and that would bring us up to 700 to 800 people, which would bring at the end, which would bring us at the end to 10% if we look just at the top through leadership development. And what we decided to do there is to really design a program, engaging both the senior leaders, but then also some of the future participants at the time to the program, to really build it with them, because what we wanted at the end was to make sure that they were fully equipped to own this standalone and this journey of the creation of a new company and a new organization. And they had to have, first of all, full understanding of our strategy, and then to be able to translate what this challenger mindset and those behaviors would really mean for them on a daily basis and for their teams. Because those people were the ones who had the largest team to lead and the largest part of the organization to run. So it's we created a 6-month journey with a moment of face-to-face and a lot of then remote and self-paced learning as well. And one of the great outcomes, besides the fact that linked to the program, there was also an individual project that everyone was working on that had a direct impact on their business, in their business area. It was also the fact that we created a community of leaders who had gone through the same experience, who were engaged, and who were ready also to support each other, no matter which part of the organization they were, both geographically and functionally. And then lastly, it's about our influencers network. I just shared one example that was a bit more elitist. Here we wanted to make sure that we were also listening to the employees at all levels of the organization. So again, on top of employee engagement surveys and other tools that we have in terms of our listening strategy, this is very practical. This is our pulse almost on a daily basis. So we identified in every country about 2 to 3 employees. We took really into account all the strengths of diversity. What they have in common is that they are talents we want to continue to grow and to accelerate in terms of potential. And then that they had a passion for our culture and diversity and inclusion topics. So we asked them actually to be our not even our, I was about to say our ears and eyes in the field, but actually not even that. And yesterday, with the example that James shared, it was HR should chill as well in some moments and let others do the job. And this is a bit that is because we believe that it cannot be HR or people function driving a cultural transformation. We need, as we saw before, full role modeling from the leaders, who really need to embody that at first. But then we need ambassadors at all levels of the organization to drive those new positive behaviors and the change. And the idea behind this, it's really, behind the influencer network, it's really this, to have a certain number of allies in the countries who are going to keep the leadership teams, first of all, accountable, reminding them that those topics need to remain high on the agenda. They come up, they give us very valuable feedback, and this is again about co-designing, about our initiatives and what we sometimes think about in our global environment that may be disconnected at times, despite we try everything and our best to avoid that, but it's excellent to get direct feedback and to then adjust accordingly from the countries, from the field. And in particular, we have great results in our manufacturing sites, where we felt that really building the engagement in some cases was a bit more complex, also because from a logistical perspective, it's difficult you cannot stop the site to run a town hall or a common activity. So we found other ways, and all of that was really created directly from our colleagues on the site, who knew better how the dynamics were, who to engage, how to engage, and how to maintain then the level of engagement high throughout the year. So overall, our learnings from the transition and the transformation that we are driving are really about safety and trust are key. How do you really build this psychological safety space? And that word was mentioned also earlier on in some of the other discussions. Make it visible. It needs to be consistent. So make it visible. Leaders need to speak about that. Leader needs to be able to embody that. When you make, I always say that it shouldn't come on top of the things that you do. It should just be in everything that you are doing. It should show our values, our behaviors, and our culture. And then it's also about making sure that you share success stories from all over the world. And this is why we really try to diversify also. The influencer network are an excellent example, because they just send regularly either small articles or they make short videos to tell some of the great stories that we have. And then at the end, it's about being patient, because it's difficult for me at times. And it takes time. It takes time to go through an engagement of all the organization. You need to go through different steps, different ways also of engaging depending by the levels of the organization. And it takes practice, because it's in our case, it's a journey in which we are also learning. We don't know yet as a company where we are going to end up. So we are all together in this, and this is again why the value togetherness has been very important. And in the spirit of what we usually do in terms of our presentations, we always end asking for questions, and then we ask for feedback at the end of our meetings. Thank you.